Hi there, Ariel and David, and hi there, Chaim and Meital, Danielle, Lee, and Maya. So there's some great moral lessons to be learned from this parsha. It's the parsha of the 12 spies going into Israel. And as you know, after they gave their report, the Jewish people cried all night and they believed the report. And as a consequence, it was obvious that that entire generation could not inhabit the land. They weren't ready. It's, one of the first questions that the Midrash asks is, wait a second, the Midrash starts out saying, send these spies. It sounds like God was okay with it. Moshe was okay with it. But in truth, when you look in Deuteronomy, you see that it was the idea of the Jewish people. They needed to have spies to scout out the land. And that, of course, is a huge problem, because this isn't a real estate deal. This isn't, I'm going on a trip and I want to see where I'm going. No, this is Jewish destiny. So if you're going to start second guessing God and saying, I want to see what this land is like, it means you're not ready for the land. And you could ask, but okay, so if God knew that this train was careening off the tracks, why didn't God stop it? Why did God let this happen? So that is really the moral lesson, that God is not micromanaging our moral faults, because God wants us to learn and grow from things that happen. And we can't do that without the pain of experiencing them and getting a message and learning and growing. And there is an interesting point that the Midrash makes. If you remember, the spies came across giants, and they said two things. The first thing God was okay with, and the second thing God was angry. The first thing they said was, wow, I guess, we're like grasshoppers compared to these big giants. Okay, can understand that. But then they said, wow, when these giants look at us, they see grasshoppers. That was something that God was not happy with, because how do they know what the giants saw when they looked at the Jewish people? Perhaps they saw the nation that just walked out in broad daylight as slaves from the most powerful nation in the world. Never happened before that slaves walked out of Egypt, and never happened before that this great empire was brought to his knees. Perhaps they saw this nation that had a special relationship with God, an unbroken relationship, because they accepted the Torah and they were on a mission to take this Torah and go into the promised land. And of course, maybe they looked at these spies and said, wow, we're on a collision course with destiny of the Jewish people. They were promised this land back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob before we even got here. So who is really afraid of who? So the fact that the spies assumed that the giants were looking at them and seeing grasshoppers, that was a problem. And of course, when they came back and gave their report, it wasn't just the 10 out of 12 grasshoppers, it was a whole nation of grasshoppers. Of course, the women were not included. Their faith was not shaken by this report. It was the men who were a nation of grasshoppers as well. And so we were just simply not ready. It's not a situation, bad things happen to good people. We were not ready. It was a consequence. And that, of course, is the lesson, the great lesson of this parsha, is the way God conducts the world, both individually and both on the basis of the entire Jewish people, is that there will be difficulties, but difficulties are an opportunity to learn, to process, and to grow from. And that's what it's all about. It's a consequence. And God is not going to protect us from that, because that is the way the world is run. Have a great Shabbos. I very much look forward to your feedback as usual. Love you all. Bye-bye.